are out.
You're not getting paid to market that.
You think maybe they'll come on though?
No.
It was made in North Carolina.
What
Cool,
is it?
refreshing Mati energy.
Mati?
Yeah, Mati. There was another podcast that just recently started, and they broadcast from the Aloft Hotel. That's near.
Where's that at?
Near the ballpark.
In Durham?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. And they just started up but they've been taking like an hour and 20 minutes of content and then dividing it into 15-minute episodes. A lot of it on video. And the sound is like pretty good too. It's like a bunch of startup guys, people that have had successful exits and everything like that. But what I noticed is they will, number one, advertise for the Aloft every single time. I don't know if they're getting paid to do that or if they're doing that.
Got to be getting paid.
Space. And then they will also advertise for Mati Energy. So maybe Mati Energy.
I'd like to come on.
Yeah. Oh, let's see if we got an email back from our pal Derek.
It will, because you can edit it and.
If I come closer like this, does it make it look like I'm taller than you or the same height?
No.
Like that. Oh, there's Derek.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Derek, how
how's
are
it
you,
going?
sir?
Good. How are you?
Pretty
Doing good. He has a microphone.
Yeah. Glad we got a chance to connect.
Yes,
Absolutely.
seriously. Looking forward to speaking with you.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
So we've got we're broadcasting live right now.
Perfect.
There's not a ton of viewers though, so like if you need some time to prep or anything like that, you can take a couple minutes and we can always edit it out, or we can leave it in if people like being voyeurs.
Cool. Well, I'm ready to go. So whatever works.
I
Cool.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. So, do you think we should start by talking about? I'll tell you what. We'll do the introduction for TriangleCast, and then we will start talking about you and Praxis.
Cool. Fantastic.
So, for all of our listeners, because right now we're recording video. This is Derek Magill from Praxis. This is going to be our first video interview. Derek, I appreciate you coming on with us. For all of our listeners, though, this is TriangleCast. And we appreciate you tuning in, whether you're watching us on YouTube, hi, or if you're listening on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher Radio. Please remember to check out TriangleCast.com and our new book, Bend, Break, Hack. So Derek, do you want to start by talking a bit about Praxis, or do you want to start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of combine them both. I'm the director of marketing at Praxis. Been with Praxis for about 2.5, 3 years now. And Praxis is a 12-month startup apprenticeship program for young people ages 16 to 26, 27 years old who want to sort of sidestep a lot of the traditional barriers to entry for, building a good career for yourself. So that includes, college is one example, but also, some low-level internships, entry-level jobs that go nowhere, things like that. And we started about 4 years ago now, really as an alternative to college, but we've grown even more into a professional accelerator for people who, either are in college now or who might go to college later, or people who are skipping college entirely, or people who have even graduated college. Basically, we have a 6-month professional boot camp and a 6-month apprenticeship at a startup where you work full time, you're paid on the job to learn really the skills that you need to succeed and become a valuable employee. You shadow the CEO, you really learn the ins and outs of the business, and you pick up highly transferable business skills and experiences in the process. Right now, we have an average income of about $50,000 a year for our graduates, average or employment rate of 98%. So we've been doing tremendously well and have helped a lot of people build great careers without going through the traditional college path.
Nice. So you guys actually switched roles, and instead of going into debt to learn, you get paid to learn.
Exactly. I mean, bottom line is college debt is a huge problem. And, I was someone who I dropped out of college, and I was able to avoid college debt. And there were a couple things that were really valuable to me in my early career, which was essentially being able to work really cheaply for a couple months and different opportunities, being able to go to a client and say, hey, I want to do marketing for you, but I know you have a small budget. So why don't I just, take a tiny budget, or why don't I just work for free for the first month? We'll see if it works out. If I generate some income, then you can start paying me. The ability to say things like that is sort of contingent on not having a lot of debt and not having a lot of expenses when you're at your young age, or the ability to go say, I have an offer at a startup that's going to pay me $30,000 a year. Not a lot of money right now, but I will get some equity. I'm also going to get to work with a really experienced founder and learn a ton, and maybe get a job title that I wouldn't be able to get at a bigger company, taking on a bigger role. The ability to say that and do that, again, is contingent on having low expenses. And so we want our graduates to be in a place where they can jump on opportunities like that when they finish the program.
I think it's a really neat concept, and you brought up having a title that you wouldn't otherwise be able to get. It's interesting because a lot of the large organizations out there, they're always looking for experience and for people to have those titles. But
Yes.
Meanwhile, they're not necessarily willing to hire somebody with no experience and then provide it for them, especially
Exactly.
at that level. So we've got at least a dozen questions for you. So I'm
Cool.
really excited that you're able to come on and tell us all about it. At first glance, it sounds too good to be true. And
Yeah.
you might have heard that before, right?
All the time.
I am a little bit, I think I'm a little bit older than you, and I'm a little bit older than Corey. I went to school for 5 years. I left with like about $85,000 in student debt. And it was nuts. Like I could have had a mortgage.
Yeah.
For that amount of money. And I remember like thinking, and my first job out of school, I was getting $25K. And it's like, there's no way to like balance that out. And then meanwhile, I'm deferring the loans and all that other kind of stuff. So the fact that there is an alternative out there is super interesting and super valuable. So many questions for you. You mentioned that people could work alongside the CEO. Do you mean work alongside the CEO of Praxis, or work alongside the CEOs at your client site?
At the business partners that we have. So we have partners around the country, hundreds of business partners, and typically at high growth kinds of startups in a broad swath of industries in most major startup cities. It's one of the things that we guarantee as part of the program is that you're going to get the opportunity to shadow the CEO or shadow another executive during some of their day-to-day work. As well as, just consistently be around them. We only partner with companies where, the CEO or, other higher level people at the company are kind of on the floor on a daily basis, so that you can see firsthand what it's like to be a successful professional and sort of, reverse engineer the process of getting there, get your questions answered, see how they do their work, things like that. So like if you're going into a marketing role, rather than studying marketing theory in class, you're actually working under a successful marketer and you're doing marketing at a company. And in that process, one, you're learning a ton, but you're also, I think, even more importantly, is you're building a portfolio during the process. So no longer are you graduating, a program where all you've done is taken tests and all you've done is, sat in the classroom and gotten good grades. But when you graduate Praxis, you can, actually point to something that you've accomplished in the real world. You can say, I worked on this marketing campaign, or I did this and it generated this much revenue. It's a totally different dynamic. And so that's why we have that really close relationship between the participant and the people they're working with.
There was I'd seen this statement on the internet a couple of times where there's an entire generation of people out there, which even though, again, age difference between the three of us aside, I think we've all maybe experienced this. You're told at some point in your life, go to college so that you don't have to flip burgers for a career. You get a degree and the jobs aren't necessarily available. The companies are.
You still have to flip burgers.
Well,
no degree.
And then you're told when I was your age, I would have done anything to get money, including flipping burgers. And you're like, wait a second. So I mean,
it's funny. I mean, because on the one hand, no one wants to flip burgers their whole life. But at the same time, we've noticed just kind of anecdotally, some of our most successful participants in the program all worked at Chick-fil-A when they were like 16 and 17 years old. Chick-fil-A or some other kind of fast food chain, Pita Pit or something like that, because it actually gives you some pretty good experience. You're a company, a business like that. I mean, you learn how to show up on time. You learn how to show up and actually, treat customers nice, even when you're having a terrible day. Like there's a lot of things that you can actually pick up. These are jobs that we shouldn't demean for young people to get. I think
No.
the experience of working at a Chick-fil-A is probably more valuable than most business-related college classes you'll take. You'll probably learn more about management,
absolutely,
about interacting with employees, all sorts of stuff like that. It's really great training. The second point too, I mean, you're spot on. I mean, kids are graduating and they're not able to find jobs. And I think, there's a couple of reasons. One, they have no experience. Two, they don't really know how to market and sell themselves in the real world. And that's a big component of Praxis as well. During our 6-month boot camp, we focus very heavily on, look, here's what companies want. Here's the kind of signal they're looking for. Here's how to build it on your own so that, you're really in charge of your own credential as opposed to just relying on your college degree. And the way we do that is, through content creation online, establishing a digital footprint of stuff that you've actually created so that when an employer looks you up, they see, okay, I know what this guy's about. I know what he's done. I know what he's capable of. I know what he's interested in. I know where he wants to go with his life. These are things where it's very rare for college students to have. I speak with students all the time who graduate and, they say, I'm interested in journalism. But if I were to look them up, I would not be able to find a single article they've written online. Praxis sort of flips the script and we say, look, you might not be an expert now. You might not be great at what you're doing now, but don't wait to start building things and putting things out online. Go get that freelance client or go publish that article or go do something. And that's going to really form the basis of your signal to the marketplace.
That's a good attitude to pass along to people as well. Is like, if you want to do something, the first step is to actually do it. Thinking about it does not lead to action.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, so our show is about bending, breaking, and hacking, and we do like to talk about entrepreneurship type topics. So would you say that this program is a mixture of fast-paced entrepreneurship, like we push our clients towards entrepreneurship, or is it more so we just want to push them towards getting a job?
Yeah, no, it's if you just want a job, Praxis is not probably the best fit for you. I mean, we're really kind of like, on one hand, we do want to push our people into being entrepreneurs. We have had participants start projects and businesses and whatnot. But I think, at this stage in their life, the best thing you can do if you want to be an entrepreneur is go work under a successful entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. So that's what we do. We find the best companies where you're going to be working with an experienced founder, at a company that's growing and hiring and building something that's not too far along, that like an Apple really, where you go in and it's so developed that you really can't see what it was like in the early days, but something that's big enough to still be stable and growing and in revenue and whatnot. So our goal really is to help our participants take charge of their careers, and one way of doing that is being sort of a traditional entrepreneur, business owner and stuff like that, but more broadly just thinking entrepreneurially about their career. About how to sidestep barriers, how to get job opportunities that would traditionally be closed to them without, someone with that low experience level, or someone without a degree or something like that. How to just, participate in the world as an entrepreneurial individual. And so we have participants, for example, who write books. We have participants who start podcasts. We have participants who start businesses and projects and, artwork and lead conferences and get freelance clients. Those are all entrepreneurial activities. And that's really our main focus, I would say.
Nice. So could you give us a background on Praxis and kind of what sparked this idea and how everything got started, and maybe what's kind of the mission statement for the company?
Yeah, I think our mission at the very highest level is to help people live, radically free lives and in their professional and personal lives, help them really, get the tools and experience and knowledge they need to take charge of their life in a really meaningful way, in a productive way. The way it got started, I mean, our founder, Isaac Morehouse, was, I knew him right before Praxis was getting started, and he had been working in sort of a nonprofit space for a while, basically doing a lot of education-related stuff. He was teaching some philosophy seminars. That's actually how I met him. He was teaching some, economic seminars, interacting with students all around the country, as well as doing fundraising for some nonprofits. So he was interacting with a lot of business owners as well. And the thing he realized, I think, was, on the one hand, there's all these young people who are just miserable in school, who have accumulating a bunch of debt, really don't see how their education path as it is now is going to really lead to anything tangible down the road. And they're terrified of the prospect of graduating. And they've been told, there's no jobs available. And they realize, too, that I have no experience. Like, why would anyone ever hire me? At the same time, he's talking to all these business owners who are saying, I can't find enough people. I can never find enough skilled young people to hire. And I think I've realized that more and more too as I've worked with Praxis, is there's just a massive hiring shortage in the United States right now. particularly among a lot of smaller businesses, smaller to mid-sized businesses that don't have the budget or the time or the energy or even the knowledge to really go out to big time recruiting firms or even big time like college fairs and stuff like that. And so college graduates will graduate and they'll never hear about these jobs. They'll hear about a very narrow range of things like, investment banking or consulting or finance, or maybe some of the higher end companies like Oracle or Google or Apple or Amazon or whatever. But they'll never hear about these like startups that have, $1 million in venture capital and have been around for 3 years and have a really good growth trajectory and are hiring like crazy. They just never hear about that. And that was something that we realized pretty quickly. And so we thought, here's what we do. We build a better education program in the form of our boot camp that prepares people for the actual professional world. And then we connect them with the best businesses around the country and combine that, create value for everybody. And that's really sort of how it's been since.
So the what's in it for the student is very easy to explain, right? So they can, it sounds like with either a high school education, some college or a college grad can come to Praxis. It sounds like a lot of the slant is towards marketing, sales, that type of stuff, digital marketing. And so they can come in and they can gain that experience. They can get paid while doing so. What is in it for the client?
Yeah, for the business owners, and we've traditionally not charged them anything. I think as we've become more valuable, there's some opportunity to kind of charge them recruiting fees. But right now, most of our business partners are paying $3,000 to $5,000 a hire, at least. Even to the recruiting firm. Oftentimes, they're paying more on top of that for marketing fees. And we've had business partners, for example, who have spent tens of thousands of dollars on marketing, not to market their product, but to market their company to young people. I mean, it's insane what's going on right now. We have business partners who offer $10,000, for a referral, for someone who refers and they actually hire someone, they'll pay you $10,000. That's how desperate they are to find the right people. And so the value prop is very clear. We have a vetting process. We do the vetting, we do the finding, we find the best young people, we train them to be valuable at your company, we teach them a lot of the software tools and the things that they'll need to know when they actually go into your role, and then we coach them through the process. The other component of the program that I didn't mention is that we have advisors who work with participants during the boot camp and throughout the apprenticeship experience. And so if you're in a customer service role or customer success role, and you're working and you're trying to learn this new tool, you're trying to learn Zendesk or Help Scout or whatever, you're actually going in and you are learning with an advisor who has actually done this and teaching you this, and then you're taking it back to your business partner. And so the businesses get a young person who is, number one, really wants to learn. Number two, works for cheap. Number three, has been vetted for them and costs them essentially nothing to hire. And then number four has, a built-in sort of feedback mechanisms through their advisors and through the Praxis curriculum. So it's really valuable for them. And we have business partners now who take upwards of 10 participants at a time.
Nice. Now, Derek, on the way here, me and Jason had a conversation, and I think we differed a little bit in in our endpoint. But is it easier to train a younger individual that's coming right out of college or high school than it is to train an individual that's maybe older or, as I said, stuck in their ways?
Can I rephrase that question? Rephrase that question, Derek? The conversation we were having in the car on the way out here to the RTP Frontier that we broadcast from was all the marketing. I'd watched the video on discoverpraxis.com, and it was saying high school grad, college student that is looking for a different type of challenge, and even recent college grad. My first thought, I'm 37. I think what you have is a neat proposition. I think at some point, like, my kids might be out of the house, and if I do want to take a career that is more marketing, then that's an interesting value prop for me. But I'm thinking you're probably, at that point, I'll probably be like 50 something, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like you guys are looking more for college students as opposed to people that are more seasoned. And my question was why, and to which Corey's response was, well, obviously young people are going to be easier to train and they're not stuck in their ways. And literally he said the words that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I hope that he doesn't get any hate mail from any of our listeners that might be a little bit older.
Yeah. That's a good question. Well, I would say, we don't have an official age requirement in the sense of, we don't have an official age requirement. And if you're 30 years old and apply, 40 years old and apply, like that won't affect you
So good.
in the application process. But in the material, in the program, and the apprenticeship, it's structured towards people who are beginning their careers. That's who we wanted to target. We wanted to target people who were, 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, 20 years old, and help save them really from the 4 to 5, 6 years of grinding in college and then graduating and having nothing to show for it. That was the audience that we wanted to go after. That was the problem that we wanted to solve with Praxis. Now, there's all sorts of other career and professional problems later down the road as well. And, maybe someday we'll be able to kind of address some of those as well. But I think, we don't want to be for everybody. If we try to be for everybody, we'll struggle and not really provide a valuable service to anybody. So, and likewise, like there's a lot of opportunity, I think, even lower down the level. I think there's a ton of business opportunity for kids who are, 13 to 16 or 12 to 16. There's a lot of opportunity there as well. We just aren't ready yet to fill that gap. But that's part of it. And I would say there is a level of energy that the younger people have that, oftentimes is not the same when you already have some experience. There's a level of open-mindedness as well, and a level of, you don't have the same expectations. You also don't have the same kind of lifestyle inflation. It's difficult to take someone who is 35 years old and has a family and has a mortgage and say, go work for $15 an hour for 6 months. It's very hard to do that, but that's what the apprenticeship sort of requires. When you're young and you're more than capable of doing that, and that's actually a decent wage. So that's something to consider as well. But let me add too. I'll say we have had a lot of really successful young people in the program, and I tend to default to thinking that they tend to do better. The kids with the least college experience tend to do a little bit better than the kids who are dropping out of college, than the people who are have already graduated and who are kind of coming to us as a career change. That does tend to fluctuate a little bit, and there are some maturity level things that do, with the 16, 17, 18 years old kids, there is some maturity things that, can come up at times. But in general, I think there's nothing that matures you faster than real world work experience. So a lot of the issues that teenagers tend to have during school get corrected pretty fast in the workplace.
Well, and I think too, a lot of the issues that can pop up in traditional work, it's the same problems at McDonald's as it is at some organizations that are paying students like paying people $28,000 out of college for their entry job. It's that same type of perhaps poor management or poor culture or lack of incentives, all kinds of different things. My background prior to starting TriangleCast with Corey was, or I should say is, in staffing. So when you talk about the amount of money companies are willing to pay to find talent, I'm on board, man. You've got me right there, because on average, I'll collect like a 20% fee.
Exactly.
On like if somebody's making $40K, a company is paying me $8,000 to locate them. And then meanwhile, the amount of money that my company would be spending on, monster accounts and LinkedIn Premium and all the stuff that's necessary to get that talent. So the fact that you are doing this is a great service. How does Praxis make money?
Yeah, it's a good question. So our program is structured to be very affordable. The full program costs $11,000, and it's spread out over the course of the 12 months. So most participants pay about $1,000 a month during the program. Now they're making, during the actual apprenticeship, $15,000 at minimum. So they're actually making more than the tuition costs. And, during the 6 months, they're making $2,500 a month. If they're paying $1,000 a month, they can typically afford most of their living expenses that way. So that's how we make money. That's how the program's structured, and that's how it's been structured roughly since the beginning. We are always exploring new ways to kind of, tweak it to make it more affordable, or to whatever, but right now that's how it's structured.
And so they would pay that out of pocket as opposed to it being a deduction from their paycheck.
Yeah, they actually get the money paid by the company, and then they pay it from there. And typically, like I said, it's spread out. Some of them will pay up front. They'll pay the full $11,000 up front, but most of them will spread it out over the course of the program. And we've been able to have a lot of people just kind of pay it themselves. We have kids, for example, who work a part-time job during the boot camp period of the program. They're 17 years old, have no prior financial history, get a part-time job. They can afford the boot camp, and then, they start their apprenticeship. They're getting paid. They can afford that as well. And then by the end of the apprenticeship, they've got a great job offer. And like I mentioned, our average income right now is about $55,000 a year for a 19-year-old graduate of the program, which is pretty awesome.
It's amazing.
It is.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
and so the return on the investment is immediate, really, and so that's why it's for these young kids, it's really not that much of an upfront cost.
So I normally use the analogy of kind of like the double Dutch effect. How do you guys convince someone that, hey, you spend $11,000 and in return you could, potentially on average be making about $50,000 a year if you join our program? How do you convince a young person of that?
Yeah, I mean, well, we have a ton of case studies online. We have a ton of stories and successes. We've been around for a while. I would say we typically don't take that avenue of kind of selling people on the program or getting them excited about the program. The money is not necessarily the biggest hiccup. I think the biggest things are always like social pressure of doing something different and doing something like, we're sort of breaking that taboo that, you absolutely have to go to college for anything and everything that you possibly want to do in life, and sort of getting them used to the idea that, no, actually, there's a lot of benefits to starting your career earlier on because you can have 4 to 5 years of work experience by the time you would have graduated college, which is incomparable to anybody who's going to be 24 or 25 years old competing with you. This is just night and day difference. And to be able to point to that and show them some of the potential of what they could do with their life instead of school, that's really how we sell them on the program, I think, more than here's how much money you're going to make, because, in the end of the day, we're not magic. We can't solve all of your problems. We can't guarantee you're going to make a certain income. And I actually think focusing on a specific number is sort of counterproductive to building a successful career. Like I said in the beginning, free work or cheap work for me was one of the most valuable things that I did when I was 19 years old and trying to land clients. It helped me build a portfolio and relationships and paid off financially way bigger down the road. Right. And so being sort of obsessed with either making $50,000 or making $30,000 a year, I don't always think is super productive, especially when, and I can say this from personal experience, when you're young and you've never made money and suddenly you start making money again, you're not going to use that money productively. I mean, it takes a couple years to do it. I mean, I blew so much money the first 2 years when I first started actually making an income, and I realized like how stupid most of the things that I bought was that. And my life from, 30 to 50 to 60 or 70K wouldn't have really changed that dramatically, because I didn't know how to use that money effectively. I didn't know what I wanted.
Not all internships are paid either. At least maybe it's moving more in that direction. I can tell you when I was getting ready to graduate, I worked an unpaid internship.
Yep.
So, the model, it is 11,000 could be a lot for somebody that isn't currently making an income. One of the things that we do on the show is we try to get very granular into stuff. Like when we find out that somebody quit their job in finance to go sell ice cream, we ask them, are you doing this as a S Corp, a C Corp, or all that kind of stuff. So when a student is ready to join Praxis, is there financing available, or are they paying, it's just $1,000 a month?
Out of pocket.
And then who is their employer?
Yeah. So their employer is their business partner, and the business partner has some flexibility with how they want to structure it. I think some of them in the past have done some 1099 stuff. Other ones have taken them on as full employees right away. It really depends. I mean, there's no expectation for them to keep them on at the end of the program, though right now the vast majority of the business partners do, because they love the experience they've had. In regards to, there's really, we can't take government financing of any kind. We can't take student loans of any kind, because that would just lead to, drastic oversight of the program, and we would essentially have to become a university, which would, sort of defeat the purpose. So we're unable to take that. Most people will work a part-time job during the boot camp, and that's how they'll pay for it, and for us, that's the kind of participant we want in the program too, someone who actually, does want to work and has that kind of motivation and drive. There's obviously, kids who have parental support as well going into the program who help them pay that, just like they would help them pay for college. And the nice thing is, we're significantly cheaper than college as well, than the vast majority of universities. I think I was paying like almost $60K a year at University of Michigan.
It's crazy.
Which is just crazy. And, it felt like the more they raise tuition, the degree's not going up much, but we have a lot more amenities on campus. We have a lot more plasma TVs and ping pong tables and other stuff like that. But the actual value of the piece of paper wasn't really going up much, nor was the value of the education. It felt like it was sort of, window dressing on everything to make the college look better, but nothing fundamentally was changing.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, most participants pay $1,000 a month. We've structured it before to do $500 a month. We're pretty flexible. We understand most of our participants are coming at us without, much income and without much prior financial history. So we get that. We also don't want to lock them into debt. Some people have sought out, third-party financing before. I mean, that's certainly doable. It's not something that we necessarily, recommend because, quite frankly, we really haven't needed it. We've had, almost 200 people go through the program now, and we haven't really run into any financial difficulties along the way.
Okay. Would you be able to explain maybe, and I think you mentioned this earlier, like any hiccups or anything that maybe, causes a student not to complete the program?
Yeah. So we have a 88% completion rate right now.
It's pretty good.
So it's 98% of those 88% are employed full-time at the end of the program. Regarding, reasons, I mean, there's obvious reasons where they realize, for example, the program is just not the right fit for them. We've had a number of people do that. And one guy was like, I think, I just want to go join some mission group and do that instead for a while and go travel and just do that and not really, think about building a career at this point in my life. Totally fine. That's awesome. We, wish you good luck and go on your way. You don't owe us any more money after you leave the program as well. So we don't come hound you for the rest of the money. It's basically, if you decide that the program's not for you, please go and please, go live whatever life, you want to go live for yourself. We're certainly not for everybody. Other reasons that people, would not succeed, there's obviously cases where people get let go by their business partners. That's pretty rare, but that could happen when, for any other reason that you might get let go at a company. If you do something, too egregious or you're just not, delivering on your expectations, then that would be part of it. Though our business partners do have, on their end, the expectation that the participant's going to be learning and growing and, there's certain things that they're not going to pick up right away. But if you're not living up to your end of the commitment, that would certainly be another issue. And I would say that's probably the main issue people would leave the program currently. It is a challenging program.
Well, yeah, we appreciate the transparency too. And I appreciate that you provided the percentage because that was going to be one of the questions would be how many people start getting into it and don't ultimately graduate or complete.
Yeah. Well, that's a big problem with college too. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I mean, the numbers of people who take student debt and then don't even finish their degree is like insane. Yeah. I mean, it's totally crazy. And then you can't even declare bankruptcy on these loans. The number of people who take a student loan and are still in college by like 6 years down the road. I mean, it's just crazy. So, we're pretty proud of our numbers. We're always trying to increase it. And the way we increase it, I mean, number one is improve the program, I think, make it better across the board. And we're committed to doing that. Also, number two is just take the right people into the program. We've gotten much better at vetting people and getting to know them during the application process and getting to know whether, we can really help them or not, whether our program suits their goals and interests, whether we think they're up for the challenges of the program, all sorts of stuff like that. We've gotten much better at that as well.
And I think it's fantastic. You're taking the route that many skilled trades have been doing for years and years and years, and are pushing even more recently as there's even a talent shortage in plumbing, electrician work. Yeah. And you're applying that though to, it sounds like marketing, sales, customer success, customer support.
Yeah, business in general too. I mean, we do have some creative types as well and a couple technical roles. Most people are, I think the majority of our participants who come into the program kind of have a liberal arts background. A lot of them are, pretty philosophically literate. They sort of understand their values and their goals in life a little bit more than the average young person. And that's, why they seek out an alternative. That's oftentimes why they even have, the courage to go seek out an alternative like Praxis. But I would say marketing and sales primarily because one, there's sort of lower barrier to entry careers in a way. There's a lot of upside to them, but at the same time, there's not necessarily a lot of technical knowledge that you need to learn, at least right away, and you can pick up a lot of stuff on the job. And you really can't study them too well in textbooks. So on-the-job training is sort of lends itself really nicely to that. But also because they're just really transferable business skills and experiences. Keep in mind our participants are 17, 18, 19 years old. They have no clue typically what they want to do with their lives. And so the default way of thinking is, well, just spend more time in college and then I'll figure it out, 4 years down the road. We say, look, you don't need to know what you want to do right now. Just get into a company, work in a sales and marketing role, do really well, succeed, pick up really transferable skills and experiences, and your goals and interests will change dramatically over the next 4 years. But they'll be informed by the work experience and the people that you know and the things that you've done in the real world, and that will sort of help you take the next step in your career. But all of the stuff our apprentices are doing will sort of, enable that. So sales and marketing is, I consider more of like a gateway to the next step in their career. It doesn't have to be the end all be all.
Yeah, I agree. And I've been in staffing for the last 10 years. I'm on the sales side of staffing. Yeah. I've in sales for more than 12 years, and it's been ridiculously valuable. Obviously, like I've made a lifestyle of it to this point, so I do see the value in it. Now, when somebody is like 19 years old, and so they've completed the program, they're going through, they're working full time. It sounds like they're being paid hourly
during the apprenticeship. Yeah.
And I will preface this by saying one of my regrets out of college was not finding something that was very engaging for me and then throwing myself at it. Right. I worked in like child support enforcement for a county in Pennsylvania. It was boring. It was depressing. And like it was a government type job. So like I'd work 40 hours and then I'd go home and take a nap. I wish I had something engaging to throw myself at for like 60 hours. Because other than that, I was just getting into trouble. And to your earlier point, wasting money. So how many hours a week are these people working when they complete the program?
Well, so when they complete the program, it really depends on the job offers that they get. And we have participants who are making $150,000 a year and are working a lot. We have participants who are making, 60, 70K, 40K base and then 30K on top of as kind of commission and stuff like that. And a lot of them are, I see regularly on our Praxis online community, people posting, 2 a.m. sales sessions where they're calling people in, Asia or something like that. So I've seen that a number of times as well. It really depends on the kind of role they're going into. During the actual program, what we guarantee is 40 hours minimum. So we tell our business partners, we don't want to sign you as a business partner unless you can take someone to work 40 hours a week, because it's a standard work day, and kind of gets them enough experience and enough exposure. Beyond that, you're free to sort of negotiate with your business partner as needed. Just like we guarantee $15 an hour minimum, but there are a number of participants who make more than that during the apprenticeship program. It really just depends on, what they're able to get from the business partner, and we help you navigate that process as well.
That's nice. So I think what I like about you guys' company is that, when I was in college, we had a department that, said we would get you a job and we would try to find you a job. Yeah. And so when I was in college, every job I had, I found on my own, and it was like, no thanks to the college I was at. But, with you guys, it's like, hey, come in, we'll get you a job and we'll place you on. And I think that's really unique. And I think that's probably what stands out.
Yeah, we guarantee the job. We don't say, come do our boot camp and then you'll just magically get a job. We guarantee the apprenticeship experience because we consider that so essential to the learning process. I mean, the program is nothing if we're just a boot camp, which is why I think we've sort of, divulged or, differentiated ourselves from, online courses or a lot of coding boot camps or other things kind of similar that just offer, essentially college, but repackaged. It's just more classroom learning, more theory, and not a whole lot more. Exactly. I mean, we stand by it. It's like, look, if you want to learn marketing, like build out an email marketing CRM for a company. That's how you learn the most things you're going to learn. This career centers and colleges are typically, full of bad advice and just like not super helpful. I experienced that as well. It was very challenging to figure out what I wanted to do. Regarding, how we match people. During the placement process, we sort of get to know them really well. During the boot camp, we get to know them really well, get to know what their interests are. They're working on a number of different projects throughout the boot camp as well. They're building out a personal website. They're building out some different software tools and just things that they're going to, sort of around their goals and interests to help them learn more. And then they're communicating with Praxis staff and Praxis advisors. And we get to know whether they're, whether we think they'll be a good fit for, a sales role or a marketing role or a business management role or whatever. And then we start to kind of shop them to different companies. And typically they'll interview with like 10 different business partners. And then they'll start getting some offers. And from there, they'll sort of make a decision where they want to go. Looks like we may have cut out.
Derek, do we have you?
Hey guys, sorry about that.
All right.
All right.
Good.
We're back in business.
Excellent. These Google Hangouts sometimes drop. I have that all the time.
Okay, so it's not just us.
All right.
No, Hangouts is buggy sometimes.
Okay. So one of the things that we wanted to ask you about is how you find the business partners.
Yeah. So in the beginning, it was, I mean, when we first got started, it was literally which business owners do we know in our friend group, you know, and let's just go find someone, you know, to place. We were just hustling. We had like 6 participants and we were like, okay, we got to go just basically hustle to find business partners to take them, whatever they're going to be, just find a place to put them. And that'll be, you know, a valuable experience. And we did pretty well with that. And people actually responded pretty positively to the, you know, the model of the program. As we grew and as we had more successes, you know, now we're in a place where a lot of businesses actually reach out to us. They're coming to us through referrals from other business partners. You know, we were on Fox News. People found us there. People found us on our blog. There's a lot of people just kind of reaching out and asking for participants. And I think, you know, because they've seen the successes other business partners are having. You know, we have PandaDoc in San Francisco, great company, you know, and they have been, you know, tremendously successful. And they have 10 participants right now, and they keep hiring more. And so having companies like that really brings new businesses into our network. We also have, you know, things like we do LinkedIn outreach. We do, you know, outbound work. We have a business development team that meets with business partners and sort of sells them on the program. In terms of what we're looking for in business partners, typically we're looking for, you know, high growth companies that are anywhere between, I would say, 20 and 100 employees, places where you're going to be able to interact again with a lot of high level people at the company, whether that's the founder or whether that's a CFO or a CMO or whatever. Really get to know and see them as well. Places where you can kind of wear multiple hats and everybody's sort of on the floor together, so you're not really compartmentalized into one specific role, even though you might be in a marketing role. And we really want you to be able to see what's the big picture going on at the business. You know, how are your actions tied to revenue? What is everybody else doing on their job? You know, what does this person do? What does that person do? How do things work? You know, all of that kind of stuff we look for in our business partners as well. You know, is this going to be the kind of environment that fosters that? And that takes a very specific kind of company. Beyond that, I mean, you know, it's you know, just kind of we get a feel for them. We talk to them. We make sure that they want to host an apprentice, that they're kind of, you know, understand the expectations that we have from them, you know, the kind of expectations that our customers have going in. And then we make sure that they know, you know, the kind of value that we're able to offer them. And right now it's become a fairly easy sell. We have oftentimes more business partners than we can place people at.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, yeah.
And we also wanted to ask you a couple of questions about yourself. And I saw that you had a book coming out soon. But before that, really very curious how you found us.
Oh yeah, I'm, you know, well, so I have a marketing guy, Brian, who joined the team about 6 months ago or so.
Okay.
And, you know, podcasting and appearances have always been valuable for us. And I had him kind of doing some internet scraping. So he might be the guy to talk to best. I set him on a project to identify, you know, podcasts. And we're basically, you know, a team that's pretty, vocal and does a lot of speaking around the world. And, we're basically, talk to anybody who will want to talk to us.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
good.
Yeah. I'll send him a note because he's the one that originally contacted us. I was just curious. Is he in California? Does TriangleCast have listeners in California already?
Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I don't know how he found it. He's a pretty techie, hacky guy. He compliments me nicely in the marketing department. I handle a lot of the creative and the strategy stuff, but he's very good at getting pretty technical about things and granular and data heavy. And so he puts together big lists of podcasts. And
I'll just pretend he's like a huge TriangleCast fan, and he listens to every episode. And
he always listens, though. He does do his research. So I'm positive he listened to 4 or 5 episodes.
Hey, whatever drives our feed burner numbers up is fine by me. So was doing a bit of research on you and saw on LinkedIn. I like that you brought up that you left college, because I saw that you had a year or less in college.
Yeah.
So you were going to classes, you were doing all that stuff, and you just thought, I've had enough?
Yeah.
Like, how did
looks like it might be cutting out again.
Hey.
There we are.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries at all. Yeah, so I guess what we were talking about why
you dropped out of school.
Yeah. So I went to the University of Michigan. I was always a good student in high school for the most part, and got good grades. I made the dean's list my first year. I was passed my test, played all the academic games I could, try to do well. But I think sort of towards the end of my senior year in high school, I became sort of disenfranchised with the education process. I was finding more value reading on my own and kind of doing my own things. And I felt kind of for the first time very clearly, that the only interesting thing about me is the fact that I have good test scores and where I'm going to college. That's the only thing adults care about when they think about me. And that was really disheartening. That was something I don't want to be in that position. And so I was in school, I was running some clubs, pretty active on campus for a little while, running clubs and putting on events and stuff like that. But over time, I just sort of gradually started to feel again like this was not a valuable experience for me. I was studying classics, so Latin and ancient Greek, literature and language, which is just sort of not the best career or major for building a career, but it was interesting to me. And I never really thought that I was going to go to college for building a career. I was really focused on, I want a good intellectual experience. I want to be around people who care about big ideas. I want to learn from, good professors and talk about good ideas and write and, discuss and just really, have a enlightening college experience. And I found, increasingly that people were not there for that. They were there for the piece of paper. Even the kids who were in these classes, a lot of the kids in my classics courses were there only because they needed a requirement for a language, or they needed a requirement for a humanities class so that they could continue on their major track. But they weren't there to really discuss the material, and it creates an environment where it's not very conducive to learning because no one's actually there to learn, and there's very few people there, and the class is being taught to the lowest common denominator always, and that was sort of the experience. And so I think gradually I just became kind of unhappy with the experience and started thinking, what am I giving up by being here 2-3 more years? What am I losing? And the more I thought about it, I thought, well, I'm losing out on work experience. I'm losing out on life experience. I'm losing out on hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm not really, following on, I'm not really pursuing my own values and my own happiness here. What's the cost of just trying something different for a year? What might happen? And it wasn't an easy process. I mean, I skipped my finals, my fall semester, my sophomore year, just completely skipped them, failed every class.
Terrifying.
Yeah, failed every class. And then I got to come back to school on academic probation. But when I realized essentially that, the sky didn't fall out, I failed every class, but the sky didn't fall down. Nothing really happened. Like I was still the same person. What did your family and friends say? They weren't particularly happy. My family in particular. I mean, my parents didn't graduate college, but they always thought like I should go to college, And
mine too.
So even though they've been, tremendously successful on their own, they just insisted that I go. But so, I decided, okay, I'll go back one more time. I'll try one more semester. Went through that very quickly again. Decided I'm done with classes. I can't sit through another class on the French Enlightenment where everybody's asleep and no one cares. It's like, how is this going to affect my life? I need to get out into the real world and start, making things. I need to go write, and I need to go, work on business projects. I need to, travel or whatever I wanted to do. And so I just left. I basically just skipped my finals again. And that was sort of my, Julius Caesar die is cast moment where, there's no turning back now.
Mm-hmm.
So I left, and, for me, I mean, life's been great since. It was about 3 years ago now. And honestly, it made all the difference in my life. I got, 3 years back. I worked with dozens of clients in kind of marketing and business ops around the world, kind of helping them, grow various aspects of their business or implement software and different technology. Obviously, I've worked with Praxis, and, I'm 24 now, and it's led to some really awesome opportunities. I get to go speak kind of around the world pretty regularly. I've written, a bunch of articles online, and just have gotten to do a lot of stuff that I couldn't have done if I were just sitting in the classroom. And I'm watching a lot of people that I know now graduate, they have a lot of debt, and they're essentially taking unpaid internships.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's why you are so devoted to the mission of Praxis, it sounds.
Yeah. I mean, so the timeline was, I dropped out, and I spent basically a year and a half or so. I was working with different companies. I first built an eBay store for an e-commerce company, and that was sort of the beginning of my career. And then you kind of use that to do some other stuff. I did some eBay consulting. I started kind of doing photography for some different small businesses, grew that into kind of some social media marketing, and then Facebook ads, and then Instagram stuff, and then grew that into like more traditional marketing stuff, and then web design and web development stuff. And from there, kind of like business consulting as well. And I was doing that for about a year and a half, and Praxis became a client of mine. I reached out to them because I loved what they were doing, and I thought, this is the perfect thing that I want to work on. And then I worked with them as a client, basically. It was sort of as a de facto, outsourced marketing director for about a year. And then they brought me on full time. And so that's what I do now.
It's a great story.
Yeah, it's a fantastic way to start the career.
It's been fun. I mean, it was sort of, I consider it a bottom-up approach to my career. So, in school, it's like you pick a major and then you go find the job with that kind of category, essentially. And that's how you figure out what you're going to want to do. For me, it was sort of the opposite. It was like, I'm just going to pursue a bunch of random activities that may or may not be connected, and I'm going to try all of them, and then they will sort of build up into the beginnings of a career category. And so that ended up being marketing, but I never really set out to be a marketer.
Yeah. And so you have a book coming out soon, is that right?
Yeah. So about 2 years ago now, I guess, I did a little ebook, which is basically a collection of some articles I had written and some articles some of my colleagues had written. And I released that for free online, and we've had about, maybe 10,000 downloads now. It's done really well, just for free. It's helped a lot of different people kind of around the world get jobs. And so now I'm working on a couple of different projects. One, we're doing a book of all of the Praxis blog, basically the best of the Praxis blog. That'll be published, I think, in September. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm doing the introduction and the editing on that. The other thing I'm working on, and I'm still kind of in the works on how I want to structure it, but the working concept is, build your own credential, which is, all about essentially how to, at an early age, signal to the market in ways, that a degree never could. So it focuses all about, building a personal brand for yourself, building a blog, a digital footprint, getting work experience, why your GitHub profile is more valuable than your college degree. Or why your Amazon reviews are more valuable than the college degree. Why your Goodreads profile or your Quora profile is more valuable than your college degree. And it goes into, personal stories and stuff like that and things that I've experienced along the way. And, just speaking anecdotally, my best opportunities have come from, writing and creating stuff online. It's been from my Quora profile. I've gotten clients, I've gotten speaking opportunities, I've gotten job offers, I've made friends. And these are things that I could never get with just a piece of paper. And so that's really what it's about. And the core concept is, we live in the best time ever to be your own credential, to not need any third party to say this guy's valuable, to be able to signal that on your own terms.
Right. Nice.
I've got to remember to thank Brian, your marketing guy, because this is the perfect type of story for TriangleCast. The whole concept here is bending, breaking, and hacking the rules to live the lifestyle that you want.
And I should add too, because I do get, in my zealousness against college, sometimes I think people misunderstand a little bit that, my goal is never to get people to drop out of college or not go to college. College is a tool, and it can be a valuable tool, I think. I think for most people, it's probably not these days, but it can be a valuable tool. My goal is, don't let your degree be the most interesting thing about you. And that sort of forms the backbone of the book concept as well, is, don't graduate at 24 and be that person, which is basically everybody nowadays, who all you can point to is the fact that you graduated from this school and you got this piece of paper.
As you're serving the coffee, you can say, look at this.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, don't be in that position. Be the person who, when you graduate, sure, you graduated from this school, but no one cares, because look at what you've done. Look at what you've created online. Look at the article you got published, or the ebook that you wrote, or the podcast that you started, or your GitHub profile, or whatever. Like, those are the things that really matter. And so if going to college is a component of that, great. But if it's not, that's okay. You don't need it.
Yeah. And, I preach that to Jason all the time. I said, if I had it my way, I would reverse it. College would be last, go out and get experience first. And, that's exactly what you guys are doing, because it's hard to preach that to a kid whose parents are just, adamant about going to college. My niece, I have 2 nieces who are on social media all the time. And so I try to tell them, why don't you guys, start a small company and go get some accounts and do some social media marketing. Once you start making money, you'll actually see that, if I need to go to college to learn something, I have the money to pay for it and I won't have debt, So I think that, once you reverse that.
Exactly. And more too. So to give like a really clear example, I'm always asked by people, well, great, Derek, I agree with you, but what about becoming a doctor? Like, you have to go to college for that. And it's like, yeah, well, sure. But, here's the problem, is that a lot of people go to medical school and graduate and realize they don't want to be a doctor. Right. Meanwhile, 8 years are gone and all this life experience and money is gone. I'm right there with you. Get experience first, which means, if you're going into becoming a doctor, or really any career, but let's say doctor, just to be a really clear example, go shadow a doctor, go become an orderly, or go intern at a private practice, or, follow what you guys are kind of doing and start a podcast, or a video podcast interviewing doctors about their career. Like, there's no reason a young person can't do that these days. And in terms of getting like opportunities, the bar is so freaking low. It's so low. Like, almost all the rules can be sidestepped. Like, once you realize that employers really don't care about experience or degrees, those are just signals for something else. What they want is someone they know will create more value than they take out in salary. Once you know that, you can start finding creative ways to sort of get around that process. And so, for me, for example, when I dropped out of college, to get a client, rather than, applying to a job or go to them and, say, hey, do you have any jobs open for me, or can I work with you? Think about, how can I help their business? What do they need? What are some things on their Facebook page, for example, that I think I could improve? And can I do it for them in advance and then give it to them? Or maybe I can pitch it to them and say, I'm going to do this for you for this price, or for free, and then later on you want to continue working together. Great. You can get almost any opportunity you want that way. It's incredible. I mean, I see young people get amazing job opportunities from all sorts of different businesses and freelance clients and everything else by just having a value proposition.
That's good.
Yeah, we try to tell people, create content. I can't tell you, so being in sales, I've spent a lot of time reaching out to people, trying to get some kind of reaction, trying to get something from them. Yeah. Once we started the podcast, once we published the book, suddenly people are coming to us.
Yeah.
Which is, and it's, we try to tell people, create content. And that also is the purpose of the book, is saying, like, at what point did we decide, okay, it's going to make sense to stick some microphones in front of us and record these conversations? Yeah. But I think we are about at time here. Cool. We use a conference room here in Research Triangle Park, where we will book a conference room. Anybody that works in this Research Triangle Park frontier, it's a co-working space. So anybody that comes here can use the space, which is amazing. Nice. But then we should be fair to the folks that have the room after us by getting all the cables and wires and everything out of the way. How can people follow you? How can people follow?
So Praxis first, discoverpraxis.com. That's discover, then Praxis.com. is the website. If you Google Praxis, there's a couple different Praxis, things that'll come up. There's like the teacher certification test. Try not to confuse us with that. That happens more often than you think. A teacher will be on our website and be like, "Where's your test?" Like, oh my gosh, come on.
You could put a test up there and just start charging people for it.
It's crazy. We just break in money. But yeah, so it's discoverpraxis.com. My website is derekmagill.com, DerekMagill.com. I also write a lot on Quora.com, which is, a QA kind of platform. One of my favorite sites. So I write a lot there about kind of college education and career advice. You could check me out there as well.
Yeah, well, cool. This has been great. You are welcome to come back on anytime.
Awesome.
So if in a few months you want to tell us how things are progressing, both for you, the work that you're doing right now, as well as things are progressing for Praxis, we'd love to have you back on.
I have a quick question for you. How many books do you have back there on that shelf?
That's a lot. And this is a temporary place too. I don't know. It's a couple hundred probably. I read a lot. It kind of, and I have a Kindle as well for travel and whatnot. So,
gotcha. All right, Derek. Well, it was great meeting with you and interviewing you. This was a great episode.
Yeah, and for
this was a lot of fun.
Again, you're welcome back anytime. Any listeners that have come out to hear Derek, any folks that are interested in learning more about podcasting, you can find our book, Bend, Break, Hack, Podcasting Without Permission, on our website, as well as Amazon.com. Everybody out there, thank you again for watching, and thank you for listening. Derek Magill with Praxis, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I'm Jason Juneau.
I'm Corey Jeffries.
We will see you next time.
All right. Take care, Derek.
Thanks, Derek.
Take care.